Today we are in John chapter 4 verse 27 through to 38. It's the middle section of the Samaritan woman's encounter with Jesus, and an encounter that changed her life. But more than that, because of her encounter, many in her community began to believe in Jesus. She was a witness. So just a quick context reminder. Hopefully you read yesterday's reading, watched the video, but Jesus was with John the Baptist in the Judean countryside. He's heading across to Galilee, and the most direct route was through the region of Samaria. But no good Jew would do that. They wouldn't defile themselves by going through Samaria. They'd take the long route round. Why was that? Well, that was because back at the time of the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem, of Israel, around 600 BC, all the Jews were rounded up, particularly the nobles and the wealthy. They were taken as slaves into Babylon, modern day Iraq, but the Jewish slaves were left where they were. And so over the years, those slaves had to intermarry with the surrounding people groups and non-Jewish neighbours. They set up their own temple because the temple had been destroyed. They became a new ethnic people group known as the Samaritans. So after the exile, when those good, pure Jews finally returned from captivity, well, you can see how conflict and hatred and distinction arose between the Jews and the Samaritans. But Jesus deliberately walks through Samaria in order to meet this one woman, an outcast to the Jews because she's a Samaritan, but also an outcast in her own community. We know that because she's collecting water from the well at the wrong time of day, 12 noon, the hottest part of the day. She's on her own because she had been rejected by her own community because she was a sinful woman, a woman who'd had numerous relationships. Now we get to today's reading, verse 27. Jesus' disciples have returned from buying food in one of the neighbouring towns, and they were shocked. They were shocked to see Jesus the Jew talking to this Samaritan, and they were shocked to see their rabbi talking to a woman, because no rabbi would have ever talked to a woman in public. Women were looked down on in society. In fact, one of your daily prayers as a rabbi was to thank God that you had not been born a Gentile or a slave or a woman. So this whole interaction between Jesus and this Samaritan woman demonstrated Jesus' plan and intention through the cross to reverse the impact of the fall, Adam and Eve, that brought about inequality, enmity between male and female, the genders, and between ethnicities, which is just amazing, isn't it? That is what Jesus is doing. So here's this Samaritan woman, and her reflex response to an encounter with Jesus is to go into her community and tell them about Jesus. You see, genuine encounter with Jesus always reflexes with witness. But you know, in going back to her community, remember this was a woman who was an outcast, ostracized within her own community for the multiple men that she'd been with. So her encounter with Jesus, for her to go back into the community, something had happened internally. That shame and guilt had been lifted off her. She no longer had to hide. And this is the transforming power of grace within us, isn't it? So picking up on verse 35, 4 more months and then the harvest. Jesus says, don't say that. He uses a common saying of the day, which really was procrastination. A bit like us saying, put off today what can be done tomorrow, or mañana, that sort of thing. A common saying to procrastinate. And Jesus is saying to his disciples, listen, right now, this moment, something special is happening. A harvest is taking place, a Samaritan harvest of souls, not even a Jewish one. He came into his own, but his own received him not. Yet to all who received him, he gave the right to be called children of God. And I want to tie this idea into Jesus rejecting the disciples' food. And I want to make a simple point from that. Jesus found a greater satisfaction and sustenance in serving than in eating. Jesus was supernaturally sustained as he outworked the Father's will, the Father's plan. And I think that's a powerful encouragement and challenges for us today. Serving Jesus, making him known in the harvest, is the greatest source of joy we can experience. It's the sort of joy that strengthens and sustains far more than bread alone, because it's the will of the Father being outworked through us. Amen.